So in 20th, 19th, and 18th, doing these in a little triplet because I feel like that's kind of fair. I've gone with Mazepin 20th, Schumacher 19th, Latifi 18th. I think um, the two Haas drivers, I think not only is the car too bad, but two rookies, one of them being Schumacher, it takes really long time to get used to a new series. We've seen it before, as everybody's saying, and Mazepin, I think we've seen just isn't a Formula One level driver yet. I do hope he grows up, doesn't do anything stupid anymore, because it would be nice to see him kind of grow as a character. But in terms of Schumacher, I think he won't be able to beat Latifi. Not only is the Williams car much stronger, but uh, the Latifi as a driver, I think probably at the moment is maybe better than Schumacher, but I don't think that will be true in a couple of years, maybe even by the end of the season. But I think not only is the Haas car too bad, but he's not got the used to it. He won't get used to the sport as quickly. So I've put Latifi just ahead of both the Haases. I think Latifi can get points this season. I think I'd be surprised if any of the Haas drivers get points, but I feel like Mazepin will be ahead of Schumacher just on finishes like throughout most of the season, and then near the end, Schumacher will probably get an 11th or maybe a 10th if he's lucky. But so yeah, that's the bottom three. So 17th and 16th Alfa Romeo, and 15th or 17th and 16th Raikkonen and Giovinazzi in that Alfa Romeo, and then 15th Russell. But first, Alfa Romeo. I do think that Russell can get the better of them, but I think Kimi Raikkonen here will do not as well as Giovinazzi, who I think will beat him again this season, purely because Raikkonen is getting a lot older now, and he's not improving. He's not getting any younger, whereas Giovinazzi is still improving driver. He's still progressing. So I do think that George Russell is going to have so much more motivation this season going for that Mercedes seat. I do think he's going to get the better of both those Alfa Romeos in a much better Williams, like I said, for Latifi. So then in 14th, 13th, 12th and 11th, I've gone with a checkerboard between Alfa Romeo and Alpine, but with Alpine eventually getting the better of them. So 14th, I've gone with Tsunoda. Originally, this was quite tough to kind of figure out. I've already said I don't think Alonso is going to do as well, but I do think he'll beat Tsunoda purely in the later stages of the season. I think he'll probably start scoring some really good points in those last kind of 5 races. Once he really gets back into things, and he will score points before, but like I said, him and Ocon are going to clash more, whereas I do think Gasly is a cleared favoured number one and a much better driver against Tsunoda, so that he will have more freedom to go, and I do think he's going to score a lot of good points. He probably won't win like he did in Monza last year, but he will get enough points, in my opinion, to beat Alonso. However, the other Frenchman, Esteban Ocon, I do think he'll beat Gasly, just probably off of the first half of the season. I think after that second half of the season, when he's starting to fight with Alonso more, I think it could get a bit different, but Gasly, I don't think he's going to be able to get the better of Ocon. I think it's going to be close though. So then 10th, 9th and 8th, I've gone with Stroll, Sainz and Vettel. As much as I want Sainz to do really well, I think he will struggle in that Ferrari, and so he might get higher than 9th, but I think I've put him a bit lower than some people have. Stroll, I think, most people just don't like him because of, well, his situation with Lawrence Stroll and all that. And then Vettel, I've put him in a very solid 8th, I think. Some people are putting him really, really highly, like top 5, maybe 4th or something. And I don't know, I don't underestimate Vettel, although I do think he's much past his peak. But I don't think that Aston Martin is going to be as quick as we think it might be. Because that Racing Point, it was fast, but the McLaren, I think, has improved with the Mercedes engine a lot, so I think the McLaren's going to be much better. I think the Ferrari will be back improving more, especially with 2 cars up there, so I think the Aston Martin might be not as good as we think it might be. But that's not to say that 8th and 10th is very, very good for Vettel, considering he got 13th last season. But yeah, I think it's a good result for Vettel in 8th and Stroll in 10th. So 7th, 6th and 5th, 7th, 6th, and 5th. Leclerc, Norris, Perez. I know obviously Perez is, some people are putting a lot higher. Norris, I think, is kind of, people are agreeing he's going to be high in the midfield, but he could come out, shock everybody, and be challenging for fifth and fourth and fifth. And then Leclerc, I think, will do a really good job for 7th in the Ferrari, considering it's not going to improve much upon last year, and with the McLaren improving so much, I don't think he's going to be able to catch Norris, and Perez in the Red Bull, can't see him catching him either. But I think he'll be good to beat Vettel, but it's still going to be another disappointing season for Ferrari. 7th and 9th, obviously, where Sainz was, so not ideal. But Norris, I think, should be very happy if he gets 6th, because that's a +3 on last season's result where he got 9th, and yeah, to be beating both Ferraris and to be challenging maybe the Red Bulls, if he can be, if McLaren are fast enough, if he can kind of have a fight with Perez, that's going to be really good to see. And then Perez, I think he's either going to get 4th or 5th, or he's just going to be really bad and get 6th, 7th, 8th if the Red Bull is just horrible to drive. But we know Perez is a good driver, so if the Red Bull is good enough for him, then he's going to be up there. I don't think he's going to get in the top 3, because in 4th, 3rd, and 2nd, I have gone with Ricciardo, Bottas, and Max Verstappen. Ricciardo, obviously this would be an incredible finish for him, especially if he can even beat one of the Red Bulls. That's really good, and I think realistically 4th is the highest anyone can achieve, because Verstappen, Hamilton, and Bottas have that completely locked down, and I think 4th is going to be between Ricciardo and Perez mainly. Maybe Norris if he's quick enough, like I said before, but probably Ricciardo and Perez. So I think Ricciardo will get that. Bottas in 3rd. That's maybe, from this kind of section, Verstappen beating Bottas is the interesting part. I do think Verstappen will beat Bottas, because I think that Red Bull will be faster than what Bottas is able to drive in the Mercedes. I don't think the Red Bull will be anywhere near as fast as the Mercedes, and I think Hamilton will dominate again. But I think Bottas, last season it was closer than people know, and Bottas is, I said this in the constructors video, but his morale has surely got to be down, knowing realistically his seat is possibly going to be, non-existent, unless Hamilton chooses to retire. But it doesn't look like Hamilton will retire. He could, but I don't think he will. In which case, I believe George Russell is most likely to replace Bottas. And so that's not going to help with your racing if you know that your team has the intention of replacing you at the end of this season. So I just don't think that Bottas has enough to beat Verstappen this year. And everybody says it every year, Verstappen can win or Verstappen can come second, and he doesn't. But I do think, especially now with Perez in the Red Bull car, they can kind of counter the Mercedes strategies, which will allow Verstappen to get the better of Bottas. Even if it means that Hamilton can still easily win the title, I do think it will mean that Verstappen gets the better of Bottas. So that does mean, pretty unsurprisingly, I've gone with Hamilton as your 2021 World Drivers' Champion, World Champion of the World. Eighth time World Champion, and he beats Michael Schumacher's record, not just ties with it. And I think, there's really no debate. If some people have put Verstappen first, there's not much change to the regulations. Hamilton wins the driver's title, and I think that's the end of it, to be honest. I don't think there's a lot of argument for Verstappen to beat Hamilton or for Bottas to beat Hamilton. So yeah, Hamilton P1. So that is it. All the predictions for 2021 done and dusted. Constructors and drivers all done. I think I've mentioned some kind of little predictions like Hamilton won't retire and stuff throughout these. But if you enjoyed them, maybe subscribe. I'll probably do a 2022 driver predictions. So make sure you do subscribe. I need it. See ya.